Mr. Frank slammed his fist against the dining table so hard that the plates shook violently. "Where is James?" Nobody answered him. The workers outside went silent. Even the second wife, sitting beside him, avoided his eyes. Then one of the houseboys spoke carefully. "Sir, they said police arrested him again last night." Mr. Frank froze. "What?" "They carried him with some boys near the waterside." The old man staggered backwards slowly and sat down heavily. For the first time in years, fear entered his eyes. Not fear of losing money, not fear of losing property, fear of losing his son forever. And the painful part? He knew exactly how it all started. Years earlier, Mr. Frank had been one of the most respected farmers in his community. Everybody knew his name. His farms stretched across villages. Trucks loaded with produce entered and left his compound almost every day. Workers feared him. Neighbors respected him. But inside that large compound, there was once peace. His first family lived happily. His wife stood beside him through the years when he had almost nothing. She endured the suffering with him before the wealth came. Together they raised 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son, James. James was the pride of the house. "Now this boy go take over everything one day," Mr. Frank used to boast proudly to visitors. And James believed him. As a child, he followed his father everywhere. To the farms, to village meetings, to the storage warehouses. "Watch carefully," Mr. Frank would say. "A man must know how to protect what belongs to him." James admired him deeply. But wealth changed Mr. Frank slowly. The richer he became, the more distant he grew from his family. Then one afternoon, he met the woman who would destroy everything. Her name was Vanessa. Beautiful, smooth-talking, calculating. At first, nobody suspected anything serious. But before long, rumors began spreading. Mr. Frank started sleeping outside. He stopped eating with his family. His first wife noticed the change immediately. One night, she confronted him carefully. "Frank, what is happening?" "Nothing is happening. You barely talk to us anymore." "I said nothing is happening." James was only 14 then, but he heard the argument from the next room. That was the first night he heard his mother cry. Months later, Mr. Frank married Vanessa officially. The entire atmosphere in the compound changed overnight. Vanessa moved in like a queen taking over conquered territory. The workers began answering to her. The cooks feared her. Even Mr. Frank changed completely around her. James watched it happen slowly. His father stopped smiling around them, stopped asking about school, stopped caring. Then the insults began. One evening during dinner, Vanessa looked at James with disgust. "Why does this boy eat like he owns the house?" Mr. Frank laughed lightly. James looked up slowly. His mother immediately spoke. "He's still growing." Vanessa scoffed. "Growing into what exactly? He's lazy." James clenched his fists beneath the table. Mr. Frank said nothing. That silence hurt more than the insult itself. From that day, things got worse. Money stopped coming regularly. James's sisters started managing old clothes. School fees became arguments. Food became limited. But Vanessa and her children lived comfortably. One afternoon, James returned from school and found his mother outside with tears in her eyes. "What happened?" She forced a smile. "Nothing." But James entered the kitchen and saw empty pots, no food, nothing. Meanwhile, laughter echoed from Vanessa's apartment upstairs. That night, James confronted his father for the first time. "Daddy, why are we suffering like this?" Mr. Frank looked irritated immediately. "Mind how you talk to me." "We haven't eaten since morning." "So?" James stared at him in disbelief. "So? You're becoming disrespectful." "I'm disrespectful because I said we're hungry?" "Get out." James stood there, shocked. Mr. Frank pointed angrily. I said get out before I deal with you. James walked away slowly, but something inside him cracked permanently that night. After that, home no longer felt like home. Vanessa made life unbearable for them deliberately. She mocked James constantly. Future heir indeed, she would say sarcastically. Sometimes she locked the kitchen purposely. Sometimes she instructed workers not to give food to James and his mother. Mr. Frank saw everything, but he kept quiet. That silence turned James' pain into anger. At school, his performance dropped badly. Teachers complained constantly. One day, a teacher stopped him after class. James, what's going on with you? Nothing. You used to be brilliant. James shrugged. Maybe I'm tired. But the truth was deeper. He was breaking emotionally. His friends noticed the change too. That was how he met Rico and the other boys. Street boys, cult boys, dangerous boys. At first, they only gave him attention. Your father is rich, Abby? James laughed bitterly. Rich for himself. They listened to him. They made him feel seen. That was all the broken boy needed. Soon he started staying out late. Then he started drinking. Then fighting. One evening, he returned home drunk for the first time. His mother panicked. James, what happened to you? Vanessa smiled from upstairs. Your son is becoming useless. James exploded instantly. Shut up! Mr. Frank stormed out immediately. You're shouting at my wife? James laughed angrily. Your wife? What about us? Mr. Frank slapped him hard. The compound went silent. James touched his face slowly. You slapped me because of her? Get out before I kill you. Something dangerous entered James's eyes that night. You stopped being my father a long time ago. Mr. Frank pointed toward the gate. Leave my house. And James left. For 3 days, nobody knew where he was. His mother cried endlessly. But when he finally returned, he was different. Harder. Colder. His eyes had changed.
Hey there, are you enjoying this story so far? Kindly like, subscribe, and drop your comments below. Thank you.
Not long after, rumors started spreading around the community. James had joined a cult group. People started avoiding him. He moved with dangerous boys, carried weapons sometimes, fought violently. Mr. Frank heard everything. At first, pride stopped him from reacting. He will learn. But things escalated quickly. One afternoon, police officers arrived at the compound. Are you Mr. Frank? Yes. Your son was arrested during a fight. The humiliation destroyed him. Villagers began talking openly. The rich man cannot control his own son. Mr. Frank paid money to secure James's release. But when James returned home, there was no gratitude, only anger. You think money can fix everything? Mr. Frank tried controlling himself. You're destroying your future. James laughed bitterly. You destroyed it first. Mind your mouth. You abandoned your family because of one woman. Mr. Frank raised his hand again. James grabbed it midair. The old man froze immediately. You can't beat me anymore, James said coldly. Even Vanessa looked frightened. From that day, Mr. Frank began fearing his own son. James became impossible to control. He stopped attending school completely, started hustling around the waterside, illegal diesel business, street deals, violent jobs. Sometimes he disappeared for weeks. His mother begged him constantly, "Please change your life." But James had buried too much pain already. One rainy evening, his youngest sister visited him secretly at a roadside bar. You need to come home. There's no home. Mama is sick. James looked away immediately. That was the only person who still softened his heart. He visited his mother late that night. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. My son. James knelt beside her quietly. You shouldn't be living like this, she whispered weakly. He looked around the tiny apartment she now rented after leaving the mansion. Everything inside him burned with anger again. This woman suffered with Mr. Frank from the beginning. Now she was living in poverty, while Vanessa enjoyed luxury. James stood up slowly. I won't forgive him. His mother grabbed his hand gently. Bitterness will destroy you too. But James was already too far gone. Years passed. His sisters got married one after another and moved on with their lives. But James sank deeper into darkness. At 24, he already had multiple police cases, multiple scars, multiple enemies, and no direction. Meanwhile, Mr. Frank was aging badly. His health began failing. The farms were no longer running smoothly. Workers stole money constantly. Vanessa's children showed no interest in responsibility. For the first time, Mr. Frank started realizing the damage he caused. One evening, he sat quietly outside with an old friend. Where is James these days? Nobody knew exactly. He's in another state, the friend replied. Working somewhere. Mr. Frank sighed heavily. I want him back. The friend looked at him carefully. You chased him away. The old man lowered his head. That truth haunted him daily now. Eventually, Mr. Frank got James's number from one of his old friends. He called immediately. James answered after several attempts. Who is this? It's me. Silence. Then James laughed coldly. You finally remembered you have a son? James. What do you want? Mr. Frank struggled emotionally. I want to see you. Why? I miss you. No, you miss having somebody to inherit your properties. The old man became quiet, because part of it was true. James continued speaking. When I was hungry, where were you? James. When your wife insulted us daily, where were you? I made mistakes. Mistakes, James shouted. You destroyed your family. Mr. Frank's voice broke slightly. I'm sorry. But James ended the call. For the first time in years, the old man cried openly. Still, he refused to give up. He started sending money to James secretly, but James rejected it. Sometimes he insulted the messengers. Other times, he disappeared completely. One afternoon, Mr. Frank traveled personally to see him. The old man was shocked when he arrived. James was living in a cramped room near an industrial area, working as a loader in a small company, sweating daily for a miserable salary. Meanwhile, his father owned lands worth millions. Mr. Frank felt deep shame. James came outside slowly after hearing his father had arrived. Neither of them spoke immediately. Then James said quietly, So you finally found me? Mr. Frank stared at him emotionally. His son looked rough, tired, older than his age. You've suffered. James laughed. Now you noticed? I came to take you home. There's no home for me there. You're my son. James stepped closer. Did you remember that before or after your workers started stealing from you? The words pierced deeply. Mr. Frank tried touching his shoulder. James moved back instantly. Don't. Silence followed. Then Mr. Frank spoke weakly. I failed you. James's eyes became emotional briefly, but the pain inside him was too deep. You failed all of us. I can still fix things. No, you can't. James, you watched us suffer. Mr. Frank lowered his head. You watched your wife torture us. The old man started crying softly. You chose another woman over your own blood. People nearby began staring, but James no longer cared. I needed a father. You abandoned me. Mr. Frank wiped his tears helplessly. I was blind. And now you're old. That sentence hit harder than anything else, because it was true. Age had humbled him. Regret had broken him. Fear had changed him. But for James, the apology came too late. Mr. Frank left that day with a heavier heart than ever before. Weeks later, James got into another serious fight. One of his old cult rivals attacked him unexpectedly. He ended up injured badly, lying alone in a small clinic, no family nearby, no real friends nearby. Only pain. Late that night, he stared at the ceiling quietly. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to remember the little boy he used to be. The boy who followed his father proudly around the farms. The boy who once dreamed of taking over the family business. The boy who only wanted love. Tears rolled down his face silently. Not because of the injuries, but because he realized something painful. Hatred had consumed almost his entire life. Meanwhile, back in the village, Mr. Frank sat alone in his large mansion. The compound was quieter now. The wealth no longer brought him peace. Sometimes he walked through empty corridors, remembering his children when they were young. Sometimes he stood outside James' old room for long periods. Regret followed him everywhere. Vanessa noticed the change too. "You're always thinking about that boy?" Mr. Frank answered coldly. "He's my son." The woman frowned. "After everything he has done?" Mr. Frank looked at her slowly. "And after everything we did to him?" For once, Vanessa had no response. Days later, Mr. Frank called James again. This time, James answered weakly from the clinic. "Hello." The old man immediately sensed something was wrong. "What happened?" "Nothing." "James." Silence. Then James finally spoke. "I'm tired." Mr. Frank's heart tightened instantly. "Where are you?" James gave him the clinic address reluctantly. The old man traveled immediately. When he entered the clinic room and saw his son lying weakly on the bed, guilt crushed him completely. He sat beside him quietly. Neither of them spoke for a while. Then Mr. Frank whispered, "I'm sorry." James stared at the ceiling. "You already said that." "But I mean it." The younger man swallowed hard. "You can't give me back my life." Mr. Frank nodded painfully. "I know." Silence again. Then James finally looked at him. For the first time in years, the anger in his eyes weakened slightly. Not gone, but weaker. "You really hurt us." The old man broke down crying openly beside the hospital bed. And for the first time since childhood, James didn't walk away. Maybe because he was too tired. Maybe because part of him still loved his father despite everything. Or maybe because deep down, wounded children never completely stop wanting their parents. But forgiveness? That was another battle entirely. Some wounds heal slowly. Some never heal at all. And sometimes, the greatest punishment is not poverty, not sickness, not losing wealth, but living long enough to see the damage you caused with your own hands. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think James should forgive his father after everything that happened? Or do some betrayals destroy a family forever?